Have you ever been told to calm down when you're angry? Chances are you've heard that advice 100 times. Society loves to paint anger as something ugly, something we need to suppress. But here's the controversial truth. Anger isn't the enemy, it's one of the most powerful tools you've got. The problem isn't the emotion itself, it's not knowing how to control anger and turn anger into power. Think about it. Every great movement in history, every breakthrough, every person who said enough is enough, they were fueled by anger. Anger has built empires, sparked revolutions, and given ordinary people the inner strength to rise above impossible odds. The issue isn't whether you feel it, but whether you let it consume you or master it. When you develop emotional control and self-discipline, that raw energy becomes a weapon for self-improvement, personal growth, and mental toughness. And here's the counterintuitive part. Trying to stay calm all the time can actually keep you stuck. That's why we're going to dive into the psychology of anger, explore how to stop being triggered, and uncover a mindset shift that will help you use anger for success. By the end of this video, you'll see anger not as something to avoid, but as fuel for self-mastery, emotional resilience, and unstoppable momentum. Ready to flip the script on anger? Let's get into it. Understanding the real nature of anger. Most people see anger as a ticking time bomb, dangerous, destructive, and something to be avoided at all costs. But that's only half the story. Anger is like fire. Left unchecked, it burns everything around you, but when controlled, it provides warmth, energy, and light. The psychology of anger shows us that it's simply a signal, a messenger pointing out when something feels unfair, unjust, or out of alignment with your values. Once you recognize it as information instead of an enemy, you can start shifting your mindset and use anger for success instead of sabotage. Take everyday life, for example. Maybe you've been overlooked at work, dismissed in a relationship, or constantly interrupted in conversations. Instead of exploding or suppressing those emotions, think of anger as a spotlight revealing exactly where you need stronger self-discipline, better boundaries, or a change of strategy. When you learn how to control anger, you're not silencing it. You're translating it into action steps that actually move your life forward. That's how raw self-help transforms frustration into personal growth. Here's where it gets interesting. Anger doesn't just highlight what's wrong, it also amplifies your energy to fix it. That intensity you feel in your chest, that restlessness in your mind, it's a surge of power waiting to be directed. If you can control your emotions, you create a mindset shift from chaos to clarity, from reaction to intention. And that's the beginning of true self-mastery. But the real question is, how do you channel that energy without letting it spill into destruction? That's where things get even more powerful. The difference between suppressing and channeling anger. Here's the trap most people fall into. They either bottle their anger up until it eats them alive, or they explode and regret the fallout later. Neither option builds emotional resilience or self-mastery. Suppressing anger might look like self-control on the outside, but inside it breeds resentment and negativity. On the flip side, letting it all out without discipline burns bridges, ruins relationships, and makes you a slave to your emotions. The key lies in channeling, directing that energy into growth mindset actions that push you forward. Imagine this. Instead of yelling at your boss for not recognizing your work, you take that same fire and use it to sharpen your skills, network strategically, or start the side project you've been putting off. That's how you turn anger into power. Or let's say a friend betrays your trust. Instead of sulking, you channel that surge of energy into hitting the gym, learning something new, or building the kind of inner strength that makes you unshakable. In both cases, you're practicing how to control anger without letting it control you. This isn't about pretending you're not triggered, it's about shifting the battlefield. You choose where the fight happens, inside a heated argument that leads nowhere, or inside yourself, where self-discipline and mental toughness can be forged. That's the raw self-help path, to transform every wave of frustration into momentum. Once you get this, the question isn't, how do I stop being angry? It becomes, how do I use this power wisely? And the way to do that requires specific tools and strategies. Practical tools to control and redirect anger. It's one thing to talk about emotional control, but let's get real. When anger hits, It can feel like a tidal wave. That's why you need practical tools to ground yourself in the moment. One of the simplest methods is the pause and breathe technique. Instead of snapping back when triggered, take a slow breath, count to 5, and ask yourself, what's the most powerful move I can make right now? This isn't just about how to stay calm. It's about creating a gap where self-discipline can take the wheel instead of raw emotion. Another tool is physical redirection. Anger creates energy, so move it. Go for a run, hit the gym, punch a heavy bag, or even do push-ups in your living room. Not only does this release the tension, but it also rewires your body to associate anger with constructive action. Think of it like training your nervous system. Instead of spiraling into negativity, you're conditioning yourself to build inner strength and emotional resilience. That's how personal growth happens in real time. And don't underestimate the power of reflection. Grab a notebook and write down exactly what triggered you, why it got under your skin, and how you responded. This practice builds self-mastery by turning your emotions into data. Over time, you'll spot patterns. Maybe certain people, situations, or environments keep setting you off. Once you see the pattern, you can create strategies to overcome negativity before it even grabs hold. These tools are simple, but when used consistently, they turn anger into power. Still, tools alone aren't enough. You need to combine them with a deeper mindset shift. Shifting your mindset about anger. Here's the truth most people miss. Anger isn't the opposite of calm. It's the gateway to it. When someone masters the psychology of anger, they realize the emotion itself isn't the problem. It's the meaning they attach to it. Instead of saying, I'm losing control, they shift to, this is energy I can shape. That mindset shift changes everything. Suddenly, anger isn't something to fear, but a tool for self-improvement and raw self-help. Think about athletes. The greatest competitors don't shy away from anger. They use it as fuel. A boxer who channels frustration into training, or a runner who turns disappointment into determination, embodies mental toughness and emotional resilience. That same principle applies in everyday life, whether it's building a business, repairing a relationship, or working on personal growth. When you control your emotions instead of fighting them, you unlock a whole new level of self-mastery. But here's the kicker. Mindset shifts don't happen overnight. They're built through practice, repetition, and conscious awareness. Every time you catch yourself being triggered and redirect that energy into action, you're rewiring your brain. Over time, this creates an inner strength that doesn't just help you overcome negativity. It helps you thrive in situations that used to break you down. The more you lean into this shift, the more anger becomes a hidden ally rather than a silent enemy. And once you've reframed your mindset, the next step is learning how to channel this energy into long-term success. Using anger as fuel for long-term success. Now that anger is no longer an enemy but an ally, the question becomes, how do you sustain it as a driving force? The answer lies in turning that raw energy into consistent action. Think of anger as jet fuel. It burns hot and fast, but if you build systems around it, you can keep that fire alive in a way that fuels personal growth. That's where self-discipline comes in. By combining emotional control with clear goals, you transform short bursts of rage into long-term progress. Take a real-world example. Entrepreneurs often start businesses after hitting rock bottom, fired from a job, dismissed by investors, or told they'd never make it. Instead of letting negativity crush them, they used anger as motivation to prove everyone wrong. The same applies to fitness journeys. Countless people who were mocked for being too weak or too slow hit the gym fueled by frustration and built mental toughness along the way. In each case, anger wasn't the obstacle, it was the ignition. But here's the important part. Channeling anger for success doesn't mean staying angry forever. It means using that initial spark to build habits, routines, and a growth mindset that carry you forward long after the heat fades. That's true self-mastery, transforming temporary emotion into lasting impact. Once you learn how to stop being triggered and instead redirect that energy, you're no longer reacting to life. You're creating it, and that's where the real magic happens. So here's the big takeaway. Anger isn't something to bury, deny, or fear. It's a raw signal, a surge of power, and a tool that, when mastered, can reshape your entire life. The real question is, will you keep letting it control you, Or will you step into emotional control, self-discipline, and true self-mastery? Because the moment you choose to turn anger into power, you stop being a victim of your triggers and start becoming the architect of your future. Imagine what you could achieve if, instead of exploding or shutting down, you used every moment of frustration to fuel your personal growth, your inner strength, and your success. How much negativity could you overcome? How much mental toughness could you build? And more importantly, what kind of person would you become if you stopped asking how to stay calm and started asking, how can I use this energy to win? If this video sparked something in you, don't just nod and move on, act on it. Start applying these tools today, because life doesn't wait. And if you want to keep building this growth mindset and continue learning how to use anger for success, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you'll always be one step ahead, fueling your journey towards self-improvement, resilience, and unstoppable momentum.